back to my channel, Manga Hoarder. My name is Laura. Today I am doing a haul video. This is my last haul, I guess, of 2020. Wait, that's a total lie. This is my last haul of 2019, but it is getting posted in 2020. These are books that I bought for Black Friday sales, I think, just before Christmas. A lot of them were pre-orders, so they've come over the period of a few weeks, but I think I'm finally have enough here that I can share them with you. Lots of really good titles coming out here at the end of the year, as well as coming out here at the beginning of the year. Hopefully I will have videos coming out about that topic as well, but there's some really cool stuff here, and I have been waiting for some of them for quite a while. I'm sure you've seen them on other people's channels, but I'm excited to talk about them. So I'm just going to show you what I've got here. So first off, I have Volume 8 of Queen's Quality. This is by Kyousuke Motomi. This is a series that I'm really enjoying, but of course I haven't been reading very much of. I think I'm only about 3 volumes into this particular part of the series. Of course there is sort of a prequel series which is called Kyousuke, and then it is transitioned into Queen's Quality. That Kyousuke I don't think is really a standalone. You really need to read it before you read this, but after this name change I really got excited about the story. I think it is developing in a way that I really like, so hopefully it still is developing in that way, because I'm about 5 volumes behind and I have quite a lot to read still, so hopefully we'll also catch up on reading this year. I got the next volume of Emanon. This is Emanon Wanderer Part 2 Volume 3. So there was a Volume 1 which is sort of a single standalone story, and then Volume 2 is the beginning of this story. I believe this is the finality of the Volume 2, Volume 3 story. I haven't read that story yet. I have been waiting just for this volume to come up so that I could do that. I really like Kenji Tsuruta at the moment. Just so wonderful. I am enjoying Tsuruta's manga so much. So there is one other title that is available in English that I do have in single issues, which I hopefully will also be able to read this year. This is basically the story about a woman, Emanon, or No Name as you read it backwards, this person who has an infinite memory. So they remember sort of the dawn of the earth, the dawn of civilization, and now is sort of like floating around the world, coming into contact with different people and creatures and sort of expressing what that means, and why are they the only person who has this extended memory, of their reincarnation, I guess, as you would. So it's very interesting, kind of lyrical in a way, like just has this very musical feel while you're reading it, just very calm and really enjoyable to read. So I've been loving this. I'm loving the other series that also is being released by Kenji Tsuruta, so I'm looking forward to this one quite a lot. A new series to me is Drifting Dragons by Taku Kuwabara. I don't know what this is about. I believe it's actually a foodie manga, but I was really intrigued by it because the costuming on the cover is incredibly reminiscent of Nausicaa. It looks like Nausicaa to me. It looks like it's inspired by Nausicaa. I don't know if you could have created a cover like this and not have thought or not have been trying to represent Nausicaa in some way, or at least like had done it sort of serendipitously like afterwards. I'm sure that the creators were thinking, hey, this looks like Nausicaa afterwards. So this is basically why I picked it up. I know that it was released originally in digital. I had heard some good things from some of the people who were buying digital and reading them that way, so I was still intrigued to pick it up. I just wasn't intrigued enough to pick it up digitally, so I'm glad it's getting a physical release. Now I can try it out. If it is a foodie manga though, I'm a little hesitant to keep going farther until I've read this one, so I'm having a hard time with some of the current kind of foodie releases, so this one I will definitely have to read before I go any further, but I am really intrigued by it. Mostly because of the design though. Next up is just the next volume of Requiem of the Rose King by Aya Kanno. I can't say too much about this because I haven't read very much of this. This is another title that I had begun reading, loved the introduction to it. I think I've only read about the first 3 volumes of this series. Again, I'm quite far behind. This is volume 11, so I have quite a lot to read. but I loved the introduction to this. I love Aya Kanno. I think they really just write these really interesting, unique perspectives on just sort of human interaction, and even if they're really silly stories. This one is a little more serious. It's historic based, War of the Roses sort of setting, and I really was enjoying it. I love historical manga, I love history in general, so this one I think really suits me, but I also just really love this artist, I love the author. I know they're the same person, but I love them both, and yeah, so I'm happy to continue to collect this. This is one I don't want to miss out on, even if I'm not reading it at the moment. The next one that I picked up is another new to me title, and I feel like this one has sort of fallen under the radar. I haven't really seen anyone pick it up, but granted, I also haven't been watching a lot of YouTube in the last 2 months, so maybe someone has been picking this one up, but this is the Space Battleship Yamato Star Blazers 2199, manga by Michio Murakawa, original writer Yoshinobu Nishizaki, and character design by Nobuteru Yuki. From what I understand, this one is a more current manga based on the anime. I'm actually kind of not 100% sure even what this is exactly, but I just saw it. I thought this is something that I'm going to regret not buying. Whatever that means. Why do I do that? I don't know. I ended up picking up the next volume of Urusei Yatsura by Rumiko Takahashi. This is volume 4. Not as big of a fan of this cover. It's just a lot of yellowy orange. But I am a big fan of this manga. It isn't very modern. It is a lot of just slapstick humor, usually around Lum, who is this alien character, or Oni character here on the cover, and she is in love with Ataru Moroboshi, who is a womanizer, but also isn't interested in her, even though she's incredibly beautiful. And so she is always running after him, and it's just sort of like a big comedy about that, and lots of other hijinks involved in these two characters in particular. It's a lot of fun. It's really silly. It is also really repetitive. Rumiko Takahashi really has sort of very specific gags that she likes to play, and she plays them over and over and over, so it's not something that I feel I can sit and just read all in one go. It gets a little bit cloying, I guess, or just like there's too much of the same, but I really like it in small doses, and so I just pick this one up every once in a while and read a little bit and then put it away and pick it up again later. So, but it's, I don't know, the characters are really nostalgic. They're just really a lot of fun, delightful. I like it. Some more manga from a series that I'm not reading. Jojo's Bizarre Adventure by Hirohiko Araki. It's actually even dusty because I haven't put it away yet. That's what happens when you've got these super, the super matte covers with like they're almost soft. This is a really nicely published manga. It's a very highly rated manga. I believe it's about different generations of the same family having adventures. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't really know. I read a little bit of the very first series. It was okay. I've heard that it is not the best of the series and that it just progressively gets better. We will see. I think that also might depend on how interested you are in battle manga or other kinds of manga. So I am looking forward to reading this. I imagine I'm not going to love it like other people do, but I feel like it belongs in my collection, so I'm going to keep buying it. Also, it just looks really nice on the shelf. Particularly this this edition, this chunk of the series. These are the Diamond is Unbreakable. This is part 4, volume 3, I think. But I just really think that they're doing a nice job with this publication. The next one is another new to me manga. This one is from Denpa Publishing. This is Kaiji Gambling Apocalypse Kaiji by Nobuyuki Fukumoto. I don't know if another volume of this has come out. and I'm not entirely sure what this is, but when I did a recommendation video about 2 or 3 years ago for manga that feature games, that game is a major theme, this was a title that was recommended to me. Unfortunately, it hadn't even been released, or it hadn't even been announced that it was getting a release. It was still only available in scan, so I didn't have a chance to read it. Now that it is available, I'm picking it up. So whoever recommended this to me a million years ago, or 3 years ago, same thing, I am going to read it now. I've also heard about it since then from many people online, various sort of types of fans, I guess you would say, and I've heard nothing but positive reviews about the series, so really looking forward to it. I think it's a long one though, so I'm a little worried about the financial investment, but I'm also confident that this is going to be a good series. Whatever it's about. I imagine gambling. I have picked up the next volume of Takane and Hana. This is volume 12. There might be another volume out already. I believe this is finished serializing or publishing in English this year. That's my impression. Shouldn't be much longer. Sort of an age gappy type romance. It's a hijinks, high comedy type series, and apparently they're getting serious about each other. I only have read the first volume, but my sister is following this one pretty closely, which is why I am staying on top of buying it as it's being released, because I know she's enjoying it quite a lot. So for me, the first volume was just okay. Probably wouldn't have kept going this year just because of my budget, but because she's enjoying it so much. So I'm keeping on buying this one, but it should be done soon, so I don't have to worry about it, and I'll probably read it when it's done. The next one that I bought is another continuation of something I'm not reading. This is the H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness, Part 2, or the second volume, by Gou Tanabe. I do have the first one. There's also another one, and I can't remember what the other one is called, but it's another H.P. Lovecraft manga, also published by Dark Horse, I think also translated by Zack Davisson. Of course, translators will be down in the description if I can find them. Oh, and this one actually has it on there. Some of the ones that I've looked at in this pile didn't have the translators listed, so it's going to be really fun trying to figure that out. At any rate, this I think is based off of a Lovecraft story. I don't know if he has a story that's At the Mountains of Madness, or if this is just a take on Lovecraft. I have recently picked up a small book of short stories, I think, of Lovecraft. I've never read his work before. I think he's mostly a horror novelist, horror science fiction-ish. I'm not entirely sure. I know a little bit. I've seen a couple of the characters. I've heard of them sort of in passing from people who are into that stuff. So I thought that I would read the novels before, or at least get a taste of it before I started reading the manga. The manga itself, though, has a really different art style. Looks quite different than a lot of the other manga that I'm picking up. Definitely a high reliance, I would say, on digital rendering. It just has a little bit more of a kind of a flat illustration in the sort of attempt at realism. I'm not entirely sure, but the drawings are interesting, and I think a lot of that stems from Lovecraft stories. Might just be weird. So some of the illustration is weird to match that. So I'm looking forward to it. The publication is quite nice. The pages are super duper white, which I really like reading on these just like crisp white pages. It'll hold up a little bit better than some of these other titles. So yeah, happy to have this. We'll read it eventually. I bought a continuation of series that I am reading. Hooray! We did it. We read one. This is Magus of the Library by Mitsu Izumi, and it's based on Kafna of the Wind by Sophie Schwim. So I am going to look for that book, I'm assuming, novel. I had looked really briefly online. I just looked it up and I didn't actually find anything. So I'm hoping that I can find something in English somewhere. Maybe it is really easy to find, but it just wasn't in that original search. This is basically about this young boy here. He's kind of got elf-shaped ears. He lives in a town where they are they're highly discriminatory against him because he obviously is from a clan, a rival clan, but is living in their village for some reason. And so, you know, even though he's highly intelligent as this young boy, they don't let him use the library, even though he really wants to use the library and read and, you know, learn. But he is sort of a fairly upbeat young man and goes and tries to use the library every once in a while, sneaks in and reads, etc. And then there is sort of in this world that has been created, there is this great library, and there are these librarians that kind of travel around looking for artifacts or trying to at least help with the management of the libraries that are out in the vast world. And the intention, I think, is that everyone should be able to use the library. I like stories about libraries, but I really did like that first volume. I thought it was a very nice, complete story. Didn't really need to go any further. It had a little bit of reminding me of Hunter x Hunter. In a way, it reminded me a lot of something in the magic books. Kenichi, I can't remember, Keiichi in the magic books, I think. I just really liked the characters in it, and I liked the way the story was built, and I liked the way that what I remember, I like the way that it was told. There's a lot of interesting uses of dialogue and font and speech bubbles that are a little bit different than I've seen in a lot of manga. So I was interested in going further with this. It's being told like an adventure story. As he's reading an adventure story, yeah, I liked the kind of the full circle of that. This one is a little bit bigger than last volume, but yeah, I'm happy to see where this goes. Now the young boy is a little bit more grown. I think he's leaving the village and going out to seek this library. I imagine that's where the story is going. So we will see how that goes. But it's a good title so far. I am liking it. Next I picked up Saint Young Men by Hikaru Nakamura. This is getting the hardcover treatment, which is interesting. It is a little bit nicer than some of the other hardcover, but it is still a little bit on the light side. So I'm thinking that the necessity of having this in hardcover is a little bit beyond me. The price point is intense, and I think that's sort of the major issue. If you had put this in a softcover, it wouldn't have been any different quality-wise, and it would have cost me less. Like, this is just ridiculously expensive. But it is, I believe, a Tezuka Osamu Cultural Prize winner, so I am enjoying a couple of those titles that I pick up when I find them. And I think that this is just sort of a quirky one. Probably not something to read if you are easily offended in a religious way. But it is sort of a story, I think, of Jesus and Buddha, and they're having a gap year and they're rooming together, and this is what their life is like. So sort of like comedy, maybe cultural commentary, I'm not entirely sure. But it sounds kind of quirky and weird and fun, and I do like seeing sort of religious interpretation from cultures that maybe don't own that religion as much. So I really am looking forward to this one. And then the last two are both reprints of titles that I have multiple volumes of. So the first one is the 20th anniversary edition of Paradise Kiss. It's an all-in-one huge volume by Yazawa. I do have two editions of this one, both from Tokyo Pop. It was released with two different cover styles, so I decided to pick that up. There's a little bit of color in the front, but for the most part it's just sort of a floppy, fairly floppy paperback, which I actually kind of like. I think it, it could get damaged, but it's not so overly heavy that I would be worried about it. So I think that this is just sort of like just the right size. You can read it pretty good. It's a fairly large trim. The art in it isn't too small, so I think you're getting actually a pretty nice treatment in this. It's basically kind of a coming-of-age story. I can't remember what the girl's name is, but it's about a young woman. She's in high school. She's sort of trying to figure out who she is, and she comes across this club or kind of small label of designers who are all the people who own it are all students who go to a fashion school, and she ends up becoming friends with them and ends up sort of assisting them with their work by becoming a model for them in their show, and just sort of all of the angst and drama of that period in your life. It's quite good. It's really interesting. I would highly recommend checking it out. It's a good manga. I haven't read it in a long time, so I'll definitely try this one out. I might compare it to see how the translation differs, if at all. Hopefully it does. This one's picked up by Vertical. So they have pretty nice publications. I feel like it's not too unreasonable. The price is very similar to that last volume, which was that Jesus and Buddha. This is $8 more than that other one, and it's a complete series. And then the last one is the most expensive, and I haven't opened it up yet, and I'm looking forward to it, but I also didn't want to open it up yet. Although I just realized that the box is dinged. That sucks. And that is the Magical Night Rayearth 25th Anniversary box set. This one is getting published by Kodansha as well. It is pretty expensive. I got a decent deal on it though. I pre-ordered it. And I think it's only getting one print. That was sort of my impression, so I wanted to grab it while I could. So here we go. It says that it's contains the complete first series plus the rare remastered art book. I don't particularly care about the art book, but I do really love this series. It's incredibly nostalgic for me. Sort of an isekai 90s manga where the girls travel to a fantasy world. And in it, well, 3 girls from 3 different schools, they're on a school trip at Tokyo Tower, and they are transported to this fantasy world, and each of them are kind of called to help save the pillar of that world who is in danger, and to do that they end up having to go on sort of a quest-like adventure where they gain magical abilities and transform into sort of Saint Seiya-esque warriors. So it's really enjoyable. The characters are delightful. The powers are wonderful. It's just very 90s nostalgia, and I love it. So I was very excited to pick this up. I don't need it though, because I have this in 4 different editions. 3 editions. There's 3 editions that I own. There's a 4th one out there that I don't own, and now I have this one, which is, I guess, now 4 editions. So I am kind of still on the lookout for that other edition that I don't have, because now it's sort of like I feel like I need to complete it, because if I have so many editions, why don't I have all the editions? Yeah. So anyway, I have a problem, but this one I just felt was really necessary. It's really going to be beautiful. I'm looking forward to reading it in these hardcovers. I hope that they're a nice publication. I haven't tried taking it out of the box yet. I will definitely be doing that in the next month, or over January at some period in time. And that's it. I think that's it. Other things have come into the collection recently. I know my sister was buying a lot of manga, but that's her job to show. If you want to see what she's been buying, she does post sometimes on Instagram, so you can go and follow her. That will be linked up down below. Other than that, I think that's everything I bought. Let me know what you bought at the end of the year. If you're looking forward to anything in particular coming up in the next month, let me know about that down below too, so I know what I should be also keeping an eye out for. I think that's it for today, so thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.